nawa ay gabayan niyo po kami muli sa aming mga pag-aaral at nawa ay gawin niyo po kaming atentibo at maging bukas ang aming isipan sa mga bagong tatalakayin namin sa araw na ito. Itinitiwala na po namin ang aming buhay sa iyo, Ama. Ito na po ang aming samad dalangin sa pangalan ni Jesus, dakila po naming tagapagligtas. Amen.
Amen. Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon po.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Ayan, hello. So, dahil yung second screen ko ay hindi nag-work, hindi makakonect sa internet, so naka-flash lang sa akin ang aking presentation. Hopefully, ito din yung nakikita nyo sa mga screen nyo. I cannot check kasi I do not have my second gadget. So, nakikita nyo na ba yung ating first slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. Hopefully, ay napanood nyo na yung ang aking pre-recorded lesson last meeting last Friday that I sent you last Friday on the science curriculum framework, because this afternoon we're going to discuss about the key stage standards. Nakatuloy nung lesson natin noong Friday. So this was the same case. This presentation was prepared by Ma'am Lynn Michelle Borospe and myself. So I'll be presenting this afternoon the key stage standards for teaching physics and teaching earth and space. Okay. So revisiting our science educational conceptual framework, nabanggit ko dun sa pre-recorded lesson that the main aim is for the development of critical and creative problem solvers, responsible stewards of nature, innovative or inventive thinker, informed decision makers, and effective communicators. So eto, dito nagre-revolve ang goal ng science education dito sa Philippines. And all of this, if we will be able to develop these skills among our students, we will be able to develop them as scientifically and technologically literate citizens. This will be done through proper assessment and monitoring. So ang core ng ating framework, nakikita natin dito, is to demonstrate scientific inquiry skills in understanding and applying scientific knowledge and in developing, demonstrating scientific attitudes and values. Papansin natin na dito, itong kulay green na ito, for skills, this is ang katumbas niya parallel with the psychomotor domains. Sa blue naman, for cognitive domain, and for the red one is the affective domain. So basically, holistic pa rin ang kagustuhan ng gobyerno ng Pilipinas in teaching teaching science education. So these are the following approaches used para sa pagtuturo ng science education in the basic education from kinder to grade 12. So the approaches are the following. We have multi and interdisciplinary approach, the STS approach or the Science Technology Society approach. We have contextual learning approach, problem or issue-based learning, and inquiry-based approach. These approaches are based on sound educational pedagogies such as constructivism, social cognition learning model, learning style theory, and gestalt psychology. In the next recordings, ang mga isi-send ko na approaches and pedagogies ay nakaakma din dito. So, ang next na lesson natin would be principles of physics and principles of earth and space science teaching. Tapos nakaangkla siya dito sa inquiry-based. So, yung next na isi-send ko sa inyo is inquiry-based approach of learning. Alright. So, okay. So, there is a specific component for our inquiry skills. So, ang didiscuss natin ngayon is skills, knowledge, and the affective domains. So, meron tayong component 1 and component 2 in the science curriculum framework. The component 1 are the inquiry skills in basic education, specifically for grades 3 to 6. Yung component number 2 na padadaanan natin mamaya are the inquiry skills for higher sciences, which means for grade 7 to grade 12. Alright, so these are, yes po.
Hindi
Yes?
po nalipat yung slide.
Okay, nasa first slide pa rin ba?
Yes po.
Okay. I'll do it this way na lang. So, hindi niyo nakita yung kanina, this one?
Hindi po.
So, ito. Ganito na lang tayo. Ganito din yung ginawa ko sa kabilang klase kapon kasi ayaw din mag-move ng slide. Thank you for letting me know na hindi pala nag-move yung ating slide. Okay lang ba kayo ng ganyan? Tapos i-adjust ko na lang ito ng mas maliit para lumaki yung slide natin. Nakikita niyo na yan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sige. Meron pang pwede dito. Lang Ayan. So as I was saying a while ago, the main aim of science education is to develop this one, scientific and technologically literate individuals. At magagawa ito ng science education if we are geared to developing them as critical and creative problem solvers, responsible stewards of nature, innovative and inventive thinkers, informed decision makers, and effective communicators. So magagawa din naman natin tong lahat itong nakapalibot dito if we're going to make our teaching holistic in such a way that we're going to develop in them scientific knowledge, yung ating cognitive domains. We have affective for scientific attitudes and values. And lastly, psychomotor for scientific inquiry skills. This will be done through proper assessment and monitoring, making use of the following approaches, ito pong nasa baba, and educational pedagogies. So, itong mga approaches na to, nahahati sa 4, and we're going to discuss all of this, unless you were able to discuss this during the first semester, kasi nire-revisit lang natin yung ating science education conceptual framework. You just tell me para hindi ko na siya i-discuss. So, itong mga approaches na to are the following. 1, we have multi or interdisciplinary approach. We have the science, technology, and society approach or contextual learning. We have problem or issue-based learning. And lastly, we have inquiry-based approach. These approaches were based on sound educational pedagogies such as constructivism, social cognition learning model, learning style theory, and gestalt psychology. Now, please tell me which of the following approaches has been discussed last semester so that I will be able to streamline my lessons or my recordings. Na-discuss ba yung multi or interdisciplinary approach in teaching ng first sem? Anybody who can speak for the class? Hello? Hello po, sa mga LRPs ninyo, na-include ba ang multi or interdisciplinary approach? Joan Kenneth, can you speak for the class, please?
Yes po.
Yes, yung multi or interdisciplinary approach. Yes po?
Yes po, ma'am.
Hello? Yes. Okay. How about STS? So, isang lesson
Yes,
siya,
ma'am.
multi or interdisciplinary approach. Meron siyang specific na lesson,
Yes.
example ng lesson. Ganon din yung problem or issue-based. Yes then? Yes, lahat? Okay. So, sample lessons na lang gagawin. So, in short, mapapadali na din ako kasi kung na-discuss ito, nandito tayo sa revisiting, ay application tayo ngayong second semester. Pero nagawa ko na kasi yung lesson for inquiry based. Padala ko na lang din yan sa Webes kung okay lang sa inyo. No? Okay. So, let's go to inquiry skills. I was saying a while ago that there are 2 components for our inquiry skills. Component 1, which is for science for earlier years, and component 2 for grades 7 to grade 12. So these are the basic processes skills that needs to be developed among children grades 3 to 6. Their ability to observe, orange, their ability to compare or classify, their ability to ask questions, their ability to measure and record data, their ability to infer, to make models, and to communicate. Based from your experiences, kahit sa college, for example, alin dito sa tingin ninyo ang mahina ang mga bata? Is it in communicating their thoughts, their findings, the data that they have gathered from their experiments? Is it observing? Is it comparing or classifying or giving inferences? Saan mahina ang isang bata in terms of this basic process skills?
Feeling ko po,
Yes,
ma'am, sa
anybody?
Ma'am, for me po yung asking questions.
Asking questions. Okay, I also believe that more than ang inquiry skills ng mga bata maski sa college na. When I ask them to ask questions, they cannot even frame a sound question for me to answer. For example, my experience can last semester with BEC B1. Pero, pwede natin i-develop yun among our students if we ourselves would tend to start our lessons with questions that are meaningful. I mean, sa level nila, sa context nila, magkikreate tayo ng specific questions that they can answer so that they can easily relate to our lesson. So, yan yung pinaka-gist ng inquiry-based education. So, in the 5E learning model, lagi tayong mag-i-start sa isang engaging na question. So, say, for example, ang lesson mo is about centripetal and centrifugal force. So, you can bring a key, for example, tapos paikutin mo siya sa kamay mo. Tapos you would ask, what do they observe? Or, another example is that, ano yung ginagawa ninyo sa isang bote ng ketchup? Nakakaunti na lang yung laman. So, anong ginagawa niyo para makuha niyo pa yung ketchup na nandun sa bottom ng bottle? So, that is an engaging question. Bakit? Kasi, nakikita nila yon sa kanilang pang-araw-araw na buhay at maaaring may sagot sila dun sa tanong na yon. Okay. So, that's the gist of inquiry-based education. Especially in 5E, yun kasing gagamitin nyo sa mga LT nyo later on, yung 5E learning model. Okay. For component number 2, we will talk more about this later on. For component number 2, on the other hand, ang inquiry skills na kailangan for grades 7 to 12 are integrating thinking skills. Kung kanina, pansinin nyo to, basic process skills. Pag sila ay medyo mas matanda na, of course, they will need integrating thinking skills. When we say integrating thinking skills kasi, they are able to make connections between and among subject matters. Example, they can use the concepts of English to teach a specific concept in science. Or, in teaching a specific concept of science, they can use jargons, words, for example, or concepts in English or mathematics that integrating thinking skills. So, specifically, for grades 7 to 12, they are expected to apply findings to new situations. So, hindi na sila tumitigil sa kung ano na lang yung alam nila, yung mga what. Kumbaga, i-apply na nila yung alam nilang konsepto. They're able to apply their findings to new situations. So, halimbawa, ng new situations. Kung napag-aralan ninyo, for example, sa force and motion, ay yung tawag yung experiment ninyo ng high school, kung nagawa nyo to, yung bottle or yung supot ng yelo, tapos meron siyang specific na butas, tapos maglalakad ka, syempre matatapon yung tubig, di ba? Magda-drop siya, pero habang binibilisan mo, nagiging mas malayo yung gap ng bawat patak sa bawat isang patak. I mean, first patak to the second patak ay mas maluwang yung space. Pero kapag mas mabagal kang lumakad, mas maliit ang spaces in between. Something like that. Ngayon, paano nyo siya ma-apply to new situations? Pwede kayong pag nag-investigate kayo, kunwari, mayroong crime scene, tapos nakita niyo yung tulo ng air conditioning system dun sa sasakyan ay magkakalapit, ibig sabihin, mas mabagal yung takbo ng sasakyang yon noong nandito siya sa lugar na to. Pero bigla siyang bumilis kasi lumayo ang gap ng isang patak sa susunod na patak, something like that. So, applying findings to new situations. Hindi siya specifically sa problem solving, pero sa specific situation in real life. Also, they're expected to state a problem. They're expected to state a problem and to formulate a specific hypothesis. Ito yung mga educated guess that they could give. Mga specific predictions that are acceptable and or reasonable and logical. They can also design a procedure to test a specific hypothesis. Kaya kayo meron kayong activity in teaching physics where you design your own procedure, you design your own experiment to teach a specific physics concept for elementary students. Kayo ang gagawa ng inyong sariling procedure. You're also able to collect specific data to find patterns in those data and draw conclusions, if any. Pero syempre, meron at merong conclusions. Ang pangit naman na meron tayong experiment tapos wala tayong draw na conclusions. So, conclusions are basically answers to our questions. So, dito sa isa sa mga natin, stating a problem, meron tayong problem, we can also draw conclusions from it. And of course, hindi nag-end doon ang integrating thinking skills. As grade 7 to grade 12, they are expected to communicate the results. Kaya kung may thesis man sa high school, for example, they are supposed to defend. They are supposed to support their findings. They are supposed to present what data they have collected. Okay. So, ang focus kasi natin ay ang component number 1. Sorry, component 2 pala to. Component number 1. So, let us give it a little try. More about scientific inquiry skills, let's give it a try. So, the first one is on observing. So, observing is a process wherein we react by using our 5 senses. So, I have here 10 sentences. Tapos, sabihin niyo sa akin if it is a statement of observation or not. So, I cannot, wait lang. I cannot see your comments kasi in the chat box. So, kung pwede, pag mayroong mag-volunteer na sumagot, ay sabihin na lang sa akin. Wait lang. Let me see if I can open your attendance sheet in my messenger. I don't think I can. Okay, anyway. So here are 10 sentences. You tell me if these are statements of observation or not. Statement number 1. Kindly read Mary Jane and answer. Mary Jane?
The lady is
Yeah. What do you think is that? That is a statement of
observation.
Okay. When we claim that this is a statement of observation, this is supposed to be something that is a product of any of your 5 senses. So what could be a logical explanation that this is a statement of observation? Michelle? Yes.
Pag po kasi ma'am, ginamit niya po yung pagtingin po niya, ma'am. Siguro kung nakita niyang nakasakay siya sa or maraming hina gold. Kaya
nakita niya may suot na gold. Eh, paano kapag ako nagsuot ko ng gold? Eh, hindi naman totoo yung statement na yan. Any other answers? Who can give me a logical explanation supporting Mary Jane's answer that the first statement is a statement of observation? RJ?
Opo.
Yes.
Ma'am, hello po.
Yes,
So yun
what's
po,
your
ma'am. The lady is very rich.
Do you think it is a statement of observation or not?
Yun, ma'am. Siguro po yung sense na sense din po ng sight. Kasi,
Kasi,
yes, ma'am. Observation po.
bakit nga? Kasi kung ako, halimbawa, no,
Ma'am, hello po.
sabihin ko, hello. Kung ako,
Sasabi po
sasabihin ko,
yata
this is a statement of inference. Kasi pwedeng yung nakita mo, it's not the real,
Ma'am, kasi ano po
real
siya,
scenario.
for me
Yes
po,
po.
pag narinig ko po yung statement, parang, opo, meron po, yung sense po ng sight, na hindi po naman po masasabi ng isang tao yung statement na yun, kung hindi po niya nakita. Kung wala po siya.
Hindi pwedeng amoy mabango or mukhang naliligo. O, any other answers, Earl?
Yes po, ma'am.
Yes. What do you think? This is a statement of observation or a statement of inference?
So, based po sa sagot po nilang dalawa, ma'am, bali magkukan po ako, ma'am. Hindi po siya observing kasi nagamit mo nga po yung sense of seeing mo po, pero hindi mo pa siya na-observe ng mabuti po. Or hindi mo pa siya
mako-confirm.
Opo.
Parang first impression po, parang ganun ba?
Ayun.
First impression,
Okay, pwede din yun. So, etong first statement, it's a bit vague. Kasi when we say it, like, the lady is very rich. Kasi nakita mo, nakasuot siya ng magandang damit. Ibig bang sabihin, hindi pwedeng magsuot ng magandang damit yung hindi naman very rich. Kasi ang qualifier natin dito is very rich. Pwedeng kumontra kay teacher. Pwedeng kumontra.
bawal judgmental, ma'am.
Gina.
Bawal daw judgmental. Yes, sino yan? Renny Rose, how about you? Your idea? Renny Rose?
Ma'am, idea lang po.
Sige
Feeling
po.
ko po hindi din po siya observing, ma'am. Kasi, yun nga po, pwedeng yung suot niya na damit is hiniram niya lang. Then yung mga sinasabing gold is hindi naman siya gold. Pwede mong sabihin na, ay maproproof mo po siya na rich siya kung based on data, like mga bank account po or mga pagmamayari po ng mga businesses, like mga ganun po.
Okay. So that's the idea, Renny Rose. So, pwede siya.
Trisha po yun.
Ay, Trisha, sorry. So, Trisha. So, pwede siyang maging statement of observation kung meron tayong fact na pinanghahawakan. Right? So, still, that is including the senses that we're talking about kanina as one of the components of observation as a process skill. Ngayon, bakit ganito yung mga statements mo, ma'am? Number 2 to 10. Halos parang, ano lang siya, sa English concepts, parang lang siyang bumuo ka lang ng sentence. Kasi sabi natin kanina, we can integrate science concepts into different. So we can use this example, number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, para makita natin kung paano tayo mag-assess ng mga observation statements or inferring statements. Okay. Number 2, try natin to. Number 2, princess.
Yes, ma'am. Sa akin po,
Observation, yes.
observation example po. Kasi,
Okay, and yes.
the sense of hearing.
Oo, masasabi ko. So, masasabi ko, ito, yes, kasi narinig ko siya mismo. So, is it justifiable then? Kasi narinig mo mismo, therefore you can say this statement is an observation statement. Yes? Tama po ba? Uy, Princess, asan ka na?
Yes, ma'am.
Ayan. Okay, who would like to try number 3? Number 3. Number 3. April. April.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes, good afternoon. So how about number 3?
Ma'am, naubusan daw po ng load si April, ma'am.
Okay, so ikaw na lang ang sasagot.
Yes.
Sino to?
Ma'am, bless you po.
Okay, Blessy.
Ma'am, yes po. Kasi po, ginamit ko yung face po, ma'am. Na mas sweeter yung yellow mango kaysa sa green.
Okay, therefore, would you say that all yellow mango is sweeter than the green ones? When in fact, we have green ones that are also sweet.
Ma'am?
Would you say, therefore, that all yellow mangoes are sweeter than the green ones, when in fact, we have green mangoes that are also sweet?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so, ayan. I get your point. Siyempre, ma'am, kasi yung yellow mango na yan, natikman ko, but I cannot conclude that all yellow mango are sweeter than the green ones. Okay tayo doon. Pero this one, if you have a specific proof na etong specific na mangoes na to, na yellow, they are sweeter than these green ones, that is acceptable. Kasi kung sasabihin mo, kasi natikman ko, that is a statement of observation. Okay? So, all of this, number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, can be considered observations or statements of observations if and only if we have conclusive statements that would support them. So, hindi pwedeng, our hand is very cold kasi sinabi niya. Kasi you have to experience it yourself before we can say it is under observation. Ngayon, mahalagang ituro sa mga bata ang observation. Therefore, kapag magpaplano kayo ng lesson nyo sa mga susunod na araw, for example, or susunod na weeks, kailangan i-develop ninyo ang observation among your students. So, meron kayong activities where they are asked to observe. Kasi nga, isa to sa mga process skills na kailangan para maging mas literate sila na yun naman talaga ang kagustuhan ng science curriculum framework. Okay. Questions so far? Alright. So kung wala, let's move on to comparing. Well, observing is one's ability to react or to give a description by using our 5 senses. Comparing is one's ability to recognize both similarities and differences of things that are being observed. So it is in itself that observations could be adjudged reliable and accurate because it is based on some observable characteristics and not what they think it is. So hindi pa rin tayo nakabase sa kung ano lang yung sa tingin lang natin. Because basically, science is about facts, science is about truth. Hindi siya pwedeng based lang on speculation. So, this second process skill that is needed by children in the elementary level enables us to give concepts na katotohanan lang, valid lamang. So in this example, this picture, kindly give me a specific statement that would say about there's differences and similarities. So the first one, picture number 19 and 20. What do you think is being compared? So meron sa taas, no? We can compare it using texture, taste, quality, smell, etc., etc. So what is being depicted in pictures number 19 and 20? Miguel.
Ma'am, good afternoon po. Sa tingin ko po,
Good
ma'am,
afternoon. O kaya pili ka na lang kung ayaw mo ng 1920. Pili ka lang dyan.
19, ma'am. Siguro po,
19, okay.
yes po. Sa tingin ko po, ma'am, yung opposite po ng mga ginagawa nila ganun.
Okay, how about similarities and differences between the two?
Similarities and differences, ano po? Yung base po dun sa mga ginagawa po nila.
Okay, actions.
Opo, actions.
Okay, thank you, Miguel. How about early ka? Number 21 and 22. Ano kaya ang ating point of reference in comparing the pictures in numbers 21 and 22?
Ma'am, yung texture po niya, ma'am. Magkaiba.
Texture?
Yes.
I don't think so. Smooth ang texture, diba? Hindi soft and hard. How about 23 and 24 na lang early ka? What is being described? What are being compared?
Ma'am, yung weight.
Okay, or the mass. Okay, the mass. May I try Lovely Jean? How about 37 and 38?
Yung distance po, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so these are only a few examples where students can be tested on how to judge differences and similarities. So very important ito kasi ito yung magli-lead sa pag-trace nila ng pattern once na pumunta sila sa grade 7 to 12. Examples kasi ng mga patterns, kung sa math, madali siya sa patterns, no? O kaya sa colors, red, blue, green, red, blue, green, red, blue, green, red, blue, green. Kung nakikita nila yung similarities and differences between and among those colors, mas nakikita nila or nakakapag-predict sila what will happen next, which is another component or of inquiry skill ang ating yung tawag dyan, description of differences and conclusions of patterns. Okay, so yan yung pangalawa. Pangatlo, we also can ask them to classify things. So classifying things is one's ability to group or sort out a number of objects according to observable characteristics. Yeah, very basic on observation. Observable characteristics they possess. So based on these two pictures, yung sa shapes natin, dito sa umpisa, kasi sa elementary level tayo, no? Ay yung nakikita niyo ba siya sa left side niyo or sa right side niyo? Etong unang picture, this one. What do you think is used as a frame of reference in classifying these objects? How did they classify the objects?
Two colors
Itong
po.
part na to. Okay, what else? What else?
Pagkakasunod-sunod po.
Pagkakasunod-sunod. I can also see pagkakasunod-sunod. Example, this one. Then, kasunod niya ay tingnan niyo sa blue. Parehas lang. Tapos we have circle, circle, diamond, rectangle, star, etc. So, as elementary school teachers in the future, i-develop din niyo ang process skill ng classifying among your children. Kasi magagamit po nila ito kapag sila ay nag-grade 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. How about in the second picture? Ano sa tingin ninyo ang grouping na ginamit to classify things? What do you think is their lesson? Ano kaya ang lesson ni teacher na gumamit ng ganitong pictures para i-classify ang mga objects? Yes, yes. Who is this?
Big.
Come again, who is this?
Ma'am Danjeline po.
Okay, Danjeline. So ano sa tingin mo ang lesson ni teacher kaya niya ginamit itong picture na to ask his or her students to classify?
Size po, ma'am.
Okay, pwede din ba yung depende sa categories? So yung una, human beings, we have fruits, we have flowers, then we have transportation. Pero okay ako dun sa size, mas nakikita natin ang size, right? Nakikita nyo din ba yung nakita ni Dangeline?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So classifying can be used either at the start of the lesson, during the lesson, at the end of the lesson. So kapag kayo ay mag-create na ng lesson plan nyo again, ma'am, pwede bang observing lang yung kukunin o yung gagawin namin dun sa motivation namin? Okay lang yun. Pwede po bang classifying lang? Okay lang din. Tapos gagamitin mo na lang ibang process skills. Develop ng ibang process skills sa ibang part ng lesson mo. Okay. Next one, we have measuring. So very important ang measuring sa science. Whether it be in biology, in chemistry, in physics, in earth and space. So measuring is actually the process of comparing an unknown quantity to a specific standard. So meron dapat tayong standard. Gone were the days when we do the dangkal-dangkal. Kasi hindi siya accurate kapag dadangkalin natin. O imagine mo, halimbawa, ang dadangkal ay si Mahal, tapos yung isang dangkal ay si Yao Ming, o diba? Lugi. Eh kung, na-imagine nyo ba, laki-laki ng dangkal niya, tapos versus ganito lang yung dangkal mo. Saan ka magbibenta ng dyaryo mo? Dun sa malaking dangkal o sa mas maliit ang dangkal? Tapos ang sabi niya, isang dangkal ay 100 pesos. Ay, doon ako kay Mahal magbibenta ng aking dinangkal na newspaper. Tama? So, are you getting my point? So that is how we teach our students to measure, to quantify. Quantify. To quantify using a specific standard. So, say for example, dito, hindi tayo gagamit ng mga cups lang. We can measure it in ml, we can measure it in kilograms. Kapag naman liquid, iba din naman ang gagamitin. Kapag temperature, iba din naman. Hindi yung sinalat mo na 37.5 ito. Ito 36.8. Ito 37.7. So, we have to have it, or we have to have it compared to a specific standard. So, very important ang measuring. Ma'am, pwede ko bang ituro ang concept ng measuring sa mga bata kung ang lesson ko po ay biology, kunwari plants po ang lesson ko. Pwede pa rin naman sa tingin ko. Depende yon dun sa iyong learning competencies. So, ibig kong sabihin yan, ma'am, hindi lahat ng lessons ay pwede itong measuring or hindi lahat ng lessons ay pwede sa classifying. Tama, hindi pwedeng lahat. Pwede kayong mamili dun sa mga processes skills na i-develop nyo for specific lesson. Siyempre, appropriate dapat doon sa lesson niyo. So, hindi pwedeng ang lesson mo is about distance. Tapos, mini-measure mo ang distance using ml. Siyempre, hindi din naman yun pwede. Okay, so you can choose which process skill is appropriate for the lesson that is assigned to you. Okay, number 5 is inferring. Inferring naman is a statement of an idea based on an observation, but its interpretation is something that is considered a tentative conclusion. Example, the lady is wearing a very expensive dress. So how would I know? Kapag nakita ko na ang ganda, ang kulay, I can say, as a tentative conclusion, that that lady is wearing a very expensive dress. But it becomes a statement of observation kung nung sinuot niya, meron pang tag price doon sa likod kasi nakalimutan niyang tanggalin. Tapos nakita mo, very expensive ng dress, 1 million shitinil. So, diba? So, the lady is indeed wearing a very expensive dress. But unless you do not have a proof of that, you only base it on observation, but that is only a tentative conclusion, inference pa rin siya magpo-fall. How about for the next statement? Why do you think that I included this one as under a statement of inference? Sarah. Sarah? Yes.
Ma'am, paulit po. Di ko pa narinig.
Bakit sa tingin mo, itong statement na to, he is a bright boy, ay considered under statement of inference? Bakit hindi siya pwedeng statement of observation? Anyone else who can help Sarah? Shinami, do you want to try?
Ma'am?
Do you want to try? Bakit siya considered as a statement of inference?
Kasi po, kapag sinabing bright boy, makikita po dun sa mga pinapakita ng bata, yung mga skills niya, yung knowledge niya. So masasabi mo pong bright boy siya dahil dun.
Okay. Kung mayroon ka ng ganong proof, Sheena, nagiging statement of observation na siya. Hindi na siya inference. So, one proof na maaaring statement of inference itong statement number 2 ay narinig mo siyang magaling magsalita. Tapos sasabihin mo, he might be a bright boy. That is only a tentative conclusion kasi wala pa tayong evidence, wala pa tayong facts na magpapatunay that he is indeed a bright boy. Nag-gets mo, Sheena? Sorry. How about Caribbean? Would you want to try statement number 3? How would you say that this is a statement of inference and not a statement of observation?
Ma'am, ano po, baka kasi sinabi po na the owner of the house is very rich, pero hindi mo po malalaman na very rich po talaga siya. Malay mo po baka yung house niya po is, kung maganda nga po, baka mamaya utang lang po siya. Ganun po.
Nag-judge na naman tayo, di ba? Pinag-usapan na naman natin sila. Okay, ganito na lang. Palit ako ng statement. Katok ka ng katok sa bahay. Isang bahay, katok ka ng katok, isang hapon. Tapos walang sumasagot. What could be a good inference? Yes, Christine Joy.
Ma'am, pwede pong paulit. Ma'am, di ko po kasi narinig.
Okay, katok ka ng katok, alas 2 ng tanghali sa bahay ng kaibigan mo. Walang sumasagot. What could be a statement of inference? Remember, an inference is an idea based on an observation and it is an interpretation of a tentative conclusion. Tentative conclusion only.
Ma'am, baka nakatulog po sila o kaya meron pong ginagawa. Okay, hindi po.
Ano kayang ginagawa nila? Okay. Tama. That is a good inference. Baka tulog sila. Ano pa?
Ma'am, o kaya ano po, malakas po yung music po nila, kaya hindi po nila naririnig na meron po
kumakatok.
O kaya po may pinsan po.
Okay. Very good. Nikki, what if, for example, ikaw yung nasa sitwasyon yun? What could be a good inference? Nikki.
Ma'am, pwede pong busy sa trabaho, ma'am. Work from home. Ganun.
Okay. Or pwede din bang wala sila sa bahay?
Yes, ma'am. Pwede rin.
Pwede yun. That is also a tentative conclusion. Now, is this the same as predicting? Is it the same as predicting? Is it the same as predicting? Is giving an inference the same as predicting? Okay. Mampasan ko yun na pending question. Yes. Hindi po. May sumasagot. Yes, hindi. Why? What would be the difference? And the conclusion may not be testable. Okay, so we're going to talk more about that. Thank you for your idea. Now, ayan na nga. We have now number 6, which is predicting. So predicting is the process of making a forecast based on observed events. Example, will it rain this afternoon? Ano ang mga pwedeng observed events that would lead you to predicting that it will rain this afternoon?
Makulimlim.
Makulimlim.
Makulimlim. Okay, ano pa? Wala lang ma'am, feel ko lang. Makulimlim. How about this one? Statement number 4. Let us try to answer statement number 4. What could be an observable event that would lead you to predicting the answer to this question? Number 4. At about what time will the typhoon hit Manila? Gina. Gina?
Ma'am.
Yes. So what do you think? Ano ba? Pwedeng call a friend.
Call a friend muna, ma'am.
Sige, call a friend. Let's call Jolivian. Friend, ano? Can you help Gina? Kung ayun yung number 4, pili kayo dyan sa 5 statements.
Mama, yung 5 na lang po.
Sige po. Sige. Can you give me an observable event that would
Ma'am,
give
kasi
you
kung
a good prediction?
kung tataas po yung gasoline, siguro po mapredict po kasi yung mga bibilihin din po na iba, tumaas po, kaya magpredict din pong tataas din po yung gasoline po.
Okay. Hindi ako makalita. Ano pa? April, May. How about April, May? April, May? Ano pa sa tingin mo? Let's try statement number 3. April?
No. Hello, ma'am?
Yes po. Ano sa tingin mo? Paano ka makakapag-predict para masagot mo yung tanong na yan? Number 3. Ma'am, base sa poll. Diba?
Siguro ma'am sa ano po ma'am, sa may mga politicians na po na parang nagpapabango sa pangalan nila para sa next na election.
Kasi you can predict that they will be our next governor because that is an observed event.
Yes, ma'am.
That's probable. Okay. So, maganda din that we ask our students to predict. Example, science ang concept na tinuturo mo, no? Tapos, gumawa ka ng isang kwento, tapos wala siyang ending. You will ask them to predict or to predict what will happen next in the story. Ano yung paano mag-i-end. So that is also integrating also English concepts or English skills sa science concepts mo. So, ibig pong sabihin naman, pwede kaming gumawa ng sarili naming kwento. Yes, pwede naman. Kunwari, ma'am, pwede ba akong gumawa ng sarili kong riddle? Pwede din yun. Sa mga lessons nyo in the future. So, medyo matagal-tagal pa tayo doon. So, let us have number 7. On controlling variables, this is also a very important skill that should be developed among your kids. So, variable is actually a factor condition, the effect of which is being tested. So, variable varies, nagbabago. Kaya meron tayong 3 concepts under which we have the manipulated, one that is changed or varied, constant, which is considered a variable in scientific experiments because these are the ones that would become your constants, the ones that could be kept unchanged. Sila yung magiging standard ninyo of comparison. And of course, letter C, which is responding or the resulting variable or condition. Nagkaroon kayo ng experiment when you were in elementary to see the response of a plant with regards to sunlight. Ano ba yung experiment ng anak ko? Nilagay nila yung munggo sa isang wet na cotton, tapos nilagay nila sa isang clear na baso, disposable cup. Tapos yung isang setup ay nilagay nila sa labas ng bahay. Yung isang setup nilagay nila sa isang room na kulong or madilim. Tapos ang tinitest nila would be the effects of light dun sa pagtubo ng halaman. And I'm pretty sure you also did that when you were in elementary, right? So if we are to identify the variables, asan doon ang manipulated, asan doon ang constant, asan doon ang responding variables. Okay, ulitin ko yung situation na isang munggo nilagay sa basang cotton. Yung cotton, sabihin na natin, 10 ml sila ang nilagay na tubig. Magkasing laki ng cotton, magkasing bigat ng cotton, parehas na laki ng baso, isang munggo din doon sa kabila. So, asan doon ang constant natin in that specific example? Lovely Shane. Lovely Shane. Lovely. Are you there? Or any volunteer? Okay, Aldrin. Asaan ang constant?
Ma'am, siguro po yung cotton.
Constant yung cotton natin? Kasi
cotton pa din po siya.
Any other idea?
Sa akin po yung munggo.
Yung munggo. Sino pang may ibang idea? Sino pa? Jasmine, how about you? Jasmine? Jasmine? Okay, so sa dalawang sumagot, sino ba yon? Si manghuhula ba ako? Aldrin, ikaw yon?
Yes, ma'am.
Ang hirap manghula. Si Aldrin at saka si?
Ma'am, ako po.
Sino po yung ako? Si?
RJ po.
Okay, RJ. Si RJ tsaka si Aldrin, parehas kayong tama. Constant yung munggo. Constant din yung water doon sa cotton. Constant din yung cotton. Constant din yung baso na magkasing laki na parehas na material, transparent sila parehas. Lahat ng yun ay constant. Ang minanipulate lang natin doon sa experiment na yun ay yung lugar kung saan sila ilalagay. Yung isa kasi nilagay sa labas. Yung isa nilagay doon sa loob ng bahay na dark area. So, yun yung manipulated. Everything else is constant. So, ano ang tinitingnan nating responding or resulting variable or condition? It is either kung tubo ba yung munggo or saan ba ang mas magandang tubo? Yung nilagay ba sa labas o yung nilagay doon sa loob ng bahay na dark? Okay, ulitin ko, constant, lahat ng pare-parehas sa experiment. Manipulated, lahat ng binago mo. Okay, I'll give you another experiment. There's one experiment during kasagsagan ng COVID-19 na in-experiment nila kung ano ang pinakamabisang panlinis ng kamay. Alcohol ba? Soap and water? Or hindi ka maglilinis? Kasi ang ginawa nila, may loaf bread na 3. Loaf bread A, loaf bread B, loaf bread C. Yung loaf bread A, nilagay sa plastic ziplock. Nilagay nila doon na ang pinanghawak nilang kamay ay yung hindi nagpugas. Lagay nila doon, ziplock. Experiment letter A. Experiment letter B, yung isang kamay, nag-alcohol, tapos hinawakan yung loaf bread, nilagay sa supot, ziplock, that's setup B. For setup C, naghugas ng kamay 20 seconds with soap and water, hinawakan yung loaf bread, pinasok sa supot, ziplock, setup C. Asan doon ang ating constant? In that
Loaf
specific
bread,
experiment.
ma'am.
Okay, loaf bread. What else? Yung ziplock. Ano pa?
Ziplock.
Ano pa? Paano? Pinaparehas silang nilagay sa ref. Constant din yun. Kasi pare-parehas ng temperature. Right? Nagets nyo na ba? Hindi pa. Nagets nyo ba? Constant din yun. Nilagay sila sa isang lugar. Hindi, yung isa, sa ref lahat nilagay, pare-parehas na temperature. Lahat ng yun, those are constants. What are the manipulated variables?
Yung sa kamay po.
Okay. Kung ano yung ginamit mo sa kamay, yung wala versus yung alcohol versus yung tubig na may sabon. Yung ating responding variable ay ano ang magiging itsura ng mga loaf bread na nilagay sa ziplock after, for example, 7 days. That is the responding or the resulting variable. So based on that experiment, napatunayan nila na pinakamaigi pa rin ang soap and water. That was an experiment done mga February 2020. Okay. So, in controlling variables, mahalaga na alam natin ano dito yung gusto kong i-test. Kasi yung gusto mong i-test, yun lang ang babaguhin mo. All else should be constant. So that is very important in science. So, halimbawa, nagpa-experiment kayo sa mga bata. Pag sinabi niyo yung 10 ml, hindi niyo susukatin gamit lang yung kamay niya. Meron tayong measuring kanina, di ba? So, dapat pare-parehas sila. Kasi kahit na isa lang ang magbago doon, 10 ml yung isa, 11 ml yung isa. Mas maraming tubig yung isa. Pwedeng ito yung magpabago doon sa resulting or responding variable ko. Kasi 10 ml versus 11 ml, the difference of 1 ml can make a difference. So when we ask our students to experiment, they have to know how to control their variables. Questions so far. So nagets na yun with two examples, yung constant, manipulated, tsaka responding. Or are there some questions for clarification? Questions for clarification?
Okay na po, ma'am.
Okay na. Sige. So, nagkakaintindihan na tayo dun sa munggo at saka dun sa loaf bread.
Yes, ma'am.
Salamat. Next naman, na process skill ay interpreting data. So, what are specific data that we can interpret in science classes? In my example, I have here a map and a specific legend. Pwede rin kasing data in sciences could mean graphs, like line graph to interpret changes over time, line graph yun. Pwede rin ang bar graph for comparisons between categories like time and production, for example, etc. So there are a lot of data that we can present and interpret. So can we try interpreting the data that I have here in my example? So this is a map. So in interpreting the data, this is done to arrive at a clear and reliable conclusion. So what do you think is the largest among the biomes presented in the map? Ano kayang pinakamalaki? Yes, Elijah. Sa tingin niyo, ano yung pinakamalaki?
Feeling ko po ma'am yung Arctic and Alpine tundra. Feeling ko po.
Arctic. Kapag pinagsama-sama mo yun, mas malaki pa ba yan kesa sa temperate boreal forest?
Not sure po ma'am.
I'm not sure, okay. So maybe let's ask Crystal Joy. Crystal Joy? How about you? What do you think? Crystal Joy? Okay, Victoria. Victoria? You want to try?
Feeling ko, ma'am, yung naka-green. Temperate
Green?
for
Ay, yung kung pinakamaliit. Hanapin mo yung pinakamaliit, Victoria. Tingin mo.
Okay.
Yellow
tropical
kaya?
rain.
Red
Ano?
siguro, no? Ano? Ano?
Yung brown
Ma'am, ano po?
Chaparral.
Pinakamaliit.
Ano to?
Chaparral?
Yung ano po? Yung wala po signal.
Sige, okay lang. Victoria?
Chaparral.
The chaparral. The brown one. So we have this one. The shrubby biome. This one also brown, and that one. I would agree with the smallest. I think it's also chaparral. And that depends on the data that you have. Kaya nga tayo sinasabing interpreting the data. So in interpreting the data, we have to be quick-witted in terms of the legend, or we should be observant on the patterns. Kasi wala akong nilagay na line graph dito or bar graph. But basically, those are some ways or some data that we can also interpret in science. Okay. And last, for component 1, increased skills is on experimenting. In experimenting, this is the final test that requires competence in science processes, especially in controlling variables, interpreting data, and formulating hypotheses. And the best way to show the steps of this is that of the scientific method. So can you still recall your lessons when you were still in high school about the scientific method? So ano ba talaga dapat ang start natin sa scientific method? Yes, just adjusting. Mika. Mika. What are the steps of the scientific method? Okay, volunteer. Any volunteer from the class?
Ma'am.
Any volunteer? Yes.
Observation po.
This is, okay, observation. Who else? What's next? Tuloy muna, anak.
Tentative hypothesis po ata.
Observation.
Testing the hypothesis.
Testing the hypothesis is experimentation. And then?
Opo. Tapos, yun lang po yung naalala ko, ma'am. Basta sa last po is yung
drawing conclusions. Okay, so there are different resources that could be found in the net or in the books, pero magkakaiba yung mga steps nila. Example, may mga books na nagsasabi that we have to start with a question. Kaya lang kasi there would also some books that would contest na how could I have any question or any problem if I haven't observed any problem? So observation daw dapat ang mauna. Okay, so nonetheless, if it would start with the problem, then we can observe the things around us so that we can create a specific hypothesis. And that hypothesis will be our basis for experimentation or testing the hypothesis. After testing the hypothesis, I would gather data, I will record the data, I will interpret the data before I can finally conclude. It is not safe to conclude right away without a specific data. Hindi pwedeng may conclusion na ako, wala pa akong findings. So it is very important to base our conclusions on the findings that we have. Okay. So this is very important. This is a very important skill na pag nagsama-sama mo lahat ng mga process skills na na-discuss natin sa una, we can have a good result of an experiment. Okay, so again, what are the 9 process skills that we have to develop among our children in the elementary level in terms of teaching science? Can you give me one, Sunshine?
Observing po.
Okay, another one, Ida. Ida. Another one. Mm-hmm.